Something I noticed at a young age was that there was a clear distinction between Japanese anime and American cartoons. Not just the signature animation look that clearly separates itself, but was the many adult themes, notably including the amount of violence anime wasn't scared to embrace. While over here, you had cartoons like the 90s Spider-Man series that shied away from violence. And while that was a great series, it was under strict censorship to not show any blood, nor even show Spider-Man punching, believe it or not. While DBZ is especially uncensored, we received that in abundance, blood and all. As well as many other classic anime staying up late so my brother could record Akira, which was like a treasured possession back then if you could get your hands on it. A story that gives the delinquent adolescent character new meaning. Ghost in the Shell having philosophical themes I didn't fully grasp back then, but due to the story aging like fine wine, I've grown to cherish that film even more now. Princess Mononoke displaying human corrupt greed versus nature and when rage gets the best of us. Seeing a spirit animal resembling a deer get shot outright, something that Bambi would never dare to explicitly show but just imply, which is why it became apparent that anime are not kid cartoons. But fast forward to today, this distinction isn't so easily understood with the mainstream popularity that anime has garnered over the years, which is why I get annoyed at those expecting it to operate like kid cartoons or water it down to be so. This includes when fans or journalists damn near have an anxiety attack over scenes that display any violence, especially involving women, like a journal did with My Hero Academia Vigilantes celebrating when the anime slightly toned itself down compared to the manga when Pop Step gets cornered by some thugs and threatens to have their way with her. Something that was already very tamed in the panels when I read them, but even when stories operate with kid gloves on, it's still not enough to deal with current day sensibilities. And as I've said earlier, Akira had much more graphic scenes dealing with similar subject matter or women being forced in the most vulnerable of situations, along with Death Note, Ninja Scroll, showcasing what true evil looks like if it gets to have its way with what it wants. But thankfully, I was mature enough to deal with what was seen on the screen, not having a bubble boy upbringing, having everything bubble wrap for me, where nowadays you have adult children needing therapy from such scenes. My fear is that with anime becoming more popular, Japanese creators will feel compelled to dilute their stories, convinced that's the only way to thrive in the near future. Western elites only seeing anime as a dollar sign, something to be advertised on kids' cereal boxes, but if anime is too mature, they'll miss out on that market. I recently learned that with the movie Logan, a phenomenal movie that even extends outside the superhero genre and is just a great film period, Hugh Jackman took a pay cut just so they could have the creative freedom to make it rated R, something that was necessary in order to justify their vision for the story. He did this because studio executives perceive that if a movie is R rated, that's less money being made compared to if it's PG-13 or PG. And what's the result? It grows tons of more money, and any fan will tell you it's a much more superior film in the Wolverine trilogy, arguably X-Men as a whole. Ryan Reynolds decided to keep Deadpool rated R despite many soccer moms demanding he make it PG-13 so their kids can see it, which everyone knows you can't make it Deadpool unless it's rated R, and also resulted to a financial success, $1 billion with Deadpool vs. Wolverine, showcasing the difference between the artist and the executive who's willing to sacrifice the integrity of the art just so they can gain an extra dollar and one more viewer. Me, I enjoy when a story is willing to be daring, catch you off guard, not for the sake of, but when it's true to the story no matter how jarring it may seem. And recently I got that from Gachiakuta, a shonen with a fascinating world, traditional stock characters but still interesting, with special powers and abilities that work in a unique way in this world, which I always applaud Japanese creators with because it makes me think, how do they keep coming up with this stuff? And in a recent episode, Rudo, the main character, and most of his team fall under a spell placed upon them from a girl named Amo, whom they sought to receive information from that will help Rudo return to the surface, and basically how her power powers work, in simple terms, she turns you into a simp, making you do her bidding. By breathing in her, I guess you could say fairy dust, you become deluded to where you confuse her with someone you have a huge emotional attachment with in your past. It could be someone who's died, a loved one, a best friend, someone you heavily trusted and now feel obligated to defend with your life, which causes a minor civil war between them and those who didn't fall under her spell. And when they finally wake up, one side effect is that reality hits you really hard, leaving you extremely depressed. Experiencing this extreme high reunited with a loved one from your past to experiencing an extreme low to realize it was all a lie. And she's just laughing away like this is all a game, playing with their emotions. And this leaves Rudo beyond upset, walking forward to pummeling the shit out of her.
Damn.
And as the viewer, you're thinking, yeah, it was hella graphic, but she kind of had it coming and it's deserved, especially when you consider Rudo's emotions in the beginning of the story. This delusion brought him back to a place where he wasn't betrayed by the person he never thought would, where somebody who he was really close to wasn't yet murdered, and on top of that, he wasn't framed as the culprit who committed the crime. As Simu said, Rudo had something building up inside of him, and it all manifested in one scene, becoming filled with rage, losing sight. Now, all of this caused a bit of a debate online, which I won't get heavily into, with the usual, this show went too far, how could they show a man beating a defenseless woman, this is a misogynist wet dream, etc., the usual rhetoric, even with a journalist saying, I can't tell you how many anime have starred edgy protagonists who've been betrayed by some haughty Jezebel and her flock of sycophants, stinking to high heaven of the sort of casual, seething misogyny that makes it impossible for these shows to be any fun at all to watch. It's so wild to me then that Gachiakuta is the first anime I can recall seeing where the main character actually crosses that line into becoming violent and uncontrollable against the woman he sees as the enemy. Seeing this particular kind of brutality is always triggering for me.
That sounds kind of gay.
But it was especially shocking to see Gachiakuta, of all shows, which I thought had mostly left behind its edgelord tendencies after those first couple of episodes. More importantly, however, is the scene where Injin, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, takes Rudo aside, lets the kid vent his own shame and frustration, and then lays out the facts. What Rudo did was fucked up, yes, and it was absolutely wrong, but it generally does mean something that Rudo recognizes where the mistakes came from. And here's where I slightly disagree as well. When Injin causes Rudo to reflect on what he's done, he gets him to see the error of his ways, but not for beating up on her because she's a woman, but due to his inability to stay composed, period. He's compromised their source of info of how to reach the surface, almost defeating the purpose of why they confronted Amo in the first place. And this plays out well because it's an older brother mentor figure not scolding him, but calmly laying out what happens when you let your emotions get the best of you, when you act in the moment, not seeing the bigger picture. And Rudo feels ashamed how he's still not fully matured from what he used to be, completely disappointed in himself. And Injin points out that he as well is still growing and that you never stop growing even in your later years, saying he likes hot ladies, but I relate.
Hell yes.
But has flaws he can't hide that those hot ladies wouldn't find so desirable. Flaws that he didn't come to realize until they were brought to him, and states that Rudo is ahead of the curve, being able to realize his flaws much earlier and on his own, and should be proud in that realization. And this is why I love anime. People will watch this episode and get offended and outraged, shocked by the violence, while others will watch this and appreciate great storytelling. A story that doesn't treat them like a child with mature themes and displays what character development looks like. The scene wasn't as this journal said that Rudo was in this absolute wrong, framing this in a moral lens, but more as what Injin was hinting towards. It was foolish, not strategic, self-destructive, and reckless, acting like a wrecking ball destroying anything in its path, including Rudo himself. And what I would say, stoicism being the ultimate lesson to be learned here. And then the next episode, we get a backstory into Amo's life, how she was sold by her mother as a child to a trafficker who groomed her, creating false perceptions of what love is, only to take advantage of her sexually, conflating him sexually abusing her as performing rituals, and no matter how much she stated she feels wrong doing so, he manipulates her into believing that's how love is supposed to feel, never truly experiencing what actual genuine love is, leading to who she is now, someone who longs for a genuine human connection connection that's without manipulation, schemes, or false beliefs. A backstory that once told caused Ruto and Amo to actually reconcile the relationship, with him apologetic and she actually understanding where he came from, that they are both actually very similar in many ways, and despite their many battle, they both gained a new friend in each other from this whole predicament. This is great storytelling. And yes, Amo's backstory did offend some in a childish way, but those of us who are mature to some degree cherish these types of moments in a good story, which is why I'll say again, anime are not kid cartoons. But that's all I have for this video. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. I hope Japanese creators don't feel pressure to water down their storytelling just to appeal to a broader audience. While it may lead to short-term gain, it will lead to massive deterioration in the long run. I've always appreciated anime for what it is and hope it remains that way. Mature, sophisticated, and overall just fun, something that entertainment is widely lacking today. Also, if you haven't already, check out my music, links in the description. If you love those samurai champloo, lo-fi mela boom bap vibes, then my music is definitely for you. And if you want to support me and the content I create, consider joining my channel. Becoming a member is much appreciated. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Free think. Peace.